our renowned speaker here, Abhijit Sanjgiri. Before moving forward, let me play motto song. No need to stand up, just place your hand on your heart. Our renowned speaker here, Abhijit Sanjgiri. Before moving forward, let me play motto song. No need to stand up, just place your hand on your heart.
Kamam 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 kamursho pursho nirvimanah tadev shukram tad brahma tadeva amritamuchyate tasmin lokah सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्वैता
Thank you. Now I requesting Chairperson Sri Srita Shirin Madam to give her opening remarks.
Thank you, sir. Respected today's resource person, Sri Abhijit Sanjgiri, sir, and colleagues at Managing Committee, fellow members, a very good evening to one and all. I welcome you all for the today's VCM on AQM, Audit Quality Maturity Model. It is a tool for self-evaluation of audit firms and sole proprietor towards technology-driven mechanism to increase the operational efficiency. As you all know that, and it focuses on continuous improvement of audit firms. Presently, it is recommendatory in nature. Our today's resource person, Sri Abhijit Sanjgiri, will throw light on this today's topic. Members, I should also mention here that today Totapalli Vijay sir was originally supposed to participate in this VCM, but unexpectedly he had a medical issue and was unable to join. But despite being informed at the last minute and being preoccupied, even though he is preoccupied with personal tasks, our speaker, Abhijit Sanjgiri sir, was incredibly generous to accept the invitation to speak in the session today. The entire management committee would like to thank you, sir, for helping us avoid upsetting the registered members. And members, I should also mention here that he has earlier gave a lot of presentations in VCMs on different topics through Vijayawada branch, where he received very positive feedbacks from a lot of members. Please make use of today's session as well. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to share my views on this topic. So one, yes, it was last minute, but the advantage is that I've been a part of this AQMM committee which drafted this, and I've spoken on this topic many times. So this is something which I can just speak anytime. So if you would have called me at 4:55 also to take this session at 5 o'clock, I would have taken it. Maybe with the same quality as I would be delivering it now. So again, maybe whatever quality it is. So, and I always am firmly of the opinion that repetition is the mother of all skills. So learning for me is moving from a stage from the incompetent to the competent stage. So a stage at the start, like the audit quality maturity model, we have 4 levels. Learning also has 4 levels. So the level 1 learning, what we call, is the stage where we are unconsciously incompetent. So the unconsciously incompetent stage is one where we don't even know what we don't know. The second stage moving here is where we are consciously incompetent. Maybe some of us who are not aware of the AQMM but know that there is an AQMM may be at this level 2. Now, maybe once you are aware, you would move immediately to a stage where you would be at level 3, where you would be consciously competent. You know what is to be done, maybe you might be doing it, but then there is the fourth level, which is being unconsciously competent, where you move from a stage of knowing to doing to being. So this becomes imbibed in you. Quality becomes a part and parcel of life. It's something like you transform yourself into, at a different level, what we call into a transcendence. And this is something which is sustained. It's something like maybe when you are learning driving, once you have learned it over a period of time, as soon as you drive, your hands just move on automatically, subconsciously, unconsciously. I think the stages where we imbibe this so much, the principles what quality maturity model gives us, and put it into practice. Now, this AQMM is mandatory from 1/4/23 onwards. So all firms will have to be rated by their peer reviewers for the AQMM levels they would be in. Now, AQMM is a questionnaire. So we need not wait for 31st March 23 to get over and for us to be rated from 1/4/23. So the first learning which you could take from today is, once you know what the AQMM questionnaire is, please rate yourself, maybe conservatively at this stage, on where you actually stand, which level you are in, because the marking is not difficult. There might be some subjectivity involved. You might tend, there are always three kinds of ratings which one can give. One can be too strict with oneself, one can be too lenient with oneself, and one can be moderately fair. So I would say be very strict with yourself and give yourself a rating, so that even if a peer reviewer comes later on, he can't rate you worse off than what you have rated yourself. It will always be better because of two facts. One, because once he comes in, you know where you are and you would have already have taken steps to improve. And secondly, he would obviously not rate you as worse of what you were, even on the issues where you have not worked upon. So one is, please do your internal rating so you know where you are, you know where your gaps are, you know what needs to be worked upon, how it needs to be worked upon, by whom whose support you need to work that upon, and by what time, when it needs to be worked upon. So please work on this self-assessment model immediately. The second is, we are living in the era of collaboration. It's definitely not competition. There have been new guidelines which have been coming up. One is on the multidisciplinary firms, which is already there in place, but it needs to be put into action. I believe maybe somewhere in 23 or early 24, it could also be put in action. So now we could have multiple professionals also joining us as partners. There are also networking guidelines which have been issued, so we can officially be network or affiliated with firms. Obviously, there are conditions. But yes, we have branches, we have study circles where we are in close proximity with a lot of quality professionals. And today, it is the proximity to quality thought leadership that is real power. So I always firmly believe, and I'm a regular blogger. I always blog whenever there is any thought which comes in my mind. I freeze on that thought. It says that your mind conjures up n number of thoughts a day, but maybe some thoughts you just freeze over, you ponder over it, reflect, introspect it over a period of time, and maybe you could have some quality thoughts which could be a very small blog or a post which you could post it on social media, and you could basically improve the quality of your thought leadership. So it's the era of collaboration, it's the era of cooperation, it's the era which all of us together can help each of us collaborate to co-elevate so as to co-create. So if there are any issues or gaps, which a firm has, then maybe the branch could step forward to guide them accordingly, or the member professionals can guide firms accordingly, so they move up to the next level of the audit quality maturity model. So learning is a continuous journey. Quality is something, a function of various things. It's a moving target. It's something where we need to be sustained at it, not let our guard down at any point of time, and just improve. Be a lifelong learner, and the more you learn, that you will have a lot more to learn. So, to be aware of your own ignorance. So as I say, the starting point is be at level 2 of learning, where maybe you are consciously incompetent, so that you know what you need to learn, you know what you need to upskill, so that you move to a level of conscious competency. And when you work upon it, when you practice it, you move to the highly evolved stage of being unconsciously or subconsciously competent, so that it becomes a way, it becomes a part of life. It gets embedded in your core DNA. So let's, with this background, just start on this topic of AQMM. So AQMM is basically derived from the audit quality maturity model, which is a model which is derived by the Center of Audit Quality. The focus, the core is on quality. And what does quality mean to us? Quality could mean a lot of things to many people. So you have your ISO standards which benchmark you to a particular quality. Quality can very broadly be described as the sum total of all good, excellent, exceptional, impressive, high grade, superb. You could say many things: wonderful, awesome, amazing, exemplary, incredible, fine, whatever adjectives. I've written some adjectives. You could add many more in your definition of quality. Maybe you could just put it up in the chat what quality as an adjective means to you. Maybe I could pick up some new things which I could define in my next presentation. But quality could mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Various adjectives can be attributed to it. Commitment to a niche. We are living what we say in a VUCA, tiny world. VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. The new term is a BANI world, which is brittle, anxious, non-linear, incomprehensible. So we are living in a world where it's not just the survival of the fittest, it's the survival of the fitter among the fittest. So it's a commitment to a niche, a super niche. Earlier it was being the jack of all trades, knowing everything. It's not now being the jack of all trades. It's now just being a jack of some, being a king or a queen of few, and being an emperor or an empress of maybe 1, 2, or 3. So it's that era of that super niche where you are so good that it's impossible to fail. And if, as they say, if you're really good, then people lose you. You don't lose people. So one, it's be so good, so good that it's impossible to fail. Maybe even the law of averages don't catch up with you. You surpass the Six Sigma, and it's all about the hard and the smart work you put in, the number of hours which you have slogged for a niche to actually develop. It said you need about 10,000 hours to gain mastery over any subject. But as and when you keep on doing, keep on speaking, keep on writing, keep on executing it, you just keep on getting better and better. And the improvements may be so marginal daily, but when you, even if you a 1% increase every day, it adds up to a compounding effect of 3.65x. So you could be a highly improved quality version of yourself in 2023 if you are committed to improve daily, both on the professional and on the personal front. So end of the year, yes, very good time to basically reflect and introspect what we know, what we need to know, how do we plan to get about it, and how do we allocate some few hours to basically being a refined version of ourselves. So as we say, quality means a lot of things to many people. You could have your various concepts around it, your TQMs, the Kaizens, the ISOs, the Six Sigmas, your quality circles, the zero waste, zero defects. You would have the top-down, bottom-up approaches. You could have various certifications which could add to your quality. You could be a DISA, you could be a valuation expert, an IFRS certified expert. You could take n number of additional certifications which the institute will give you. You could be doing the CI if you want to be in an internal audit. You could do the CF if you want to be in fraud examination. You could do the risk management CRM if you want to be in risk management. You could do n number of additional courses, degrees to basically even give a structured learning certificate to whatever you've learned. So quality is a function of how you learn and how you improve daily. Now, what is the objective in which the CAQ under the guidance of ICAI has set up this AQMM, the audit quality maturity model? Obviously, the basic objective is to enhance audit quality of professionals, and it is at 3 levels. It's at the engagement level, it's at the firm level, and it's at the national level. So it's one is improving quality at the audit assignment which you're doing, improving quality of the audit firm which is doing the assignment, and improving quality of chartered accountants in general in the country. And as you know, the users depend on auditors. It's basically our confidence on various stakeholders, which basically gives them the desired comfort. There have been some cases in recent times where very few of us, I would say very few stray cases, but yes, they have been highlighted beyond proportion and have been giving the profession not a good name. And it's high time we hit back and claim a rightful credible share which we contribute to society. Pride of service before professional gain. That's what is our motto. The one who is awake when everybody else is sleeping. So this is what will be our endeavor to improve our quality, and that's what the AQMM gives us a structure. So the structure is because of the fact that quality is not a simple subject. It's quite qualitative. Like quality, it's qualitative. It's not quantitative. So there's an attempt to quantify it. And there's no universal definition of what quality is, because it is also subjective. It's also contextual, and it could vary from time to time. So one needs to understand this model and then see how we could apply this in practice. So something which is acceptable, something which is appropriate, and something which is also aspirational. And something where there is a sustainability, there is a predictable degree of uniformity, dependability. Its suitability and appropriateness for use, it conforms to requirements. We meet all the legal and regulatory necessities which are warranted and which are mandated. The focus is on the client, on various stakeholders. Balancing interests of all stakeholders is key. Leadership process at all levels. So it's at the engagement level, the person who's actually working on the engagement, the person who's reviewing the engagement, and the person who's signing finally the statement. So the engagement partner, the review partner, and the quality partner. So the AQMM lays down these concepts which we may need to basically employ or deploy. It's all about people engagement, the resources whom we use. Are we supporting them with the necessary skill sets, with the necessary tools and techniques? Do we have a diverse and an inclusive team? And do we have horses for courses? So in certain cases, if you need help of various professionals, whether you have taken it, and in case you need to use work of another professional or experts, whether you have taken that. So it's all about people engagement, keeping your staff engaged and motivated at all times, having a performance-based review, having reviews of what is the qualitative time spent on the assignment, what is the budgeting of time done, what is the actual time spent, what is the deviation for, why, what should be done to ensure that the deviation is kept to the minimum. So you are working at your efficient and your effective best at all times. How is decision making done? Decision making should not be by gut. There should be nothing like an urgency in any important decision making. So there is no firefighting. It's not that you're forced to do something where, okay, obviously you have no choice but to do it, so that the decision making is not with full information. So you need to have full information and dissect all this available information so that you take an informed decision making, which is a balance of both the mind and as well as the heart. So all of this is truly important. And then finally, your relations, your rapport, which you establish with all stakeholders. And that rapport is only built on trust. That rapport is built on integrity. That rapport is built on competency. That rapport is built on credibility. That rapport is built on objectivity. That rapport is built on transparency. That rapport is built on your professional behavior. So it's all about ethics. Finally, your code of ethics is also there, and somewhere in all of these is enshrined the fact that quality has to do a lot with ethics. And when I speak on ethics, I always use this acronym for ethics, where E stands that it's for everyone. Ethics is for everyone, every time. It's not just for the auditor. All stakeholders are concerned. All your employees are concerned with ethics. All your support staff are all concerned with ethics. Ethics should obviously start at the top, the tone at the top, walking the talk by the main partner and all partners. But yes, it should percolate down to the lowest level. It's a top-up, bottom-up approach, pull and a push effect. So E stands, it's for everyone. T stands for trust. Trust begets trust. H stands for honesty and humility. I stands for integrity, as I said, which is non-negotiable. Your C stands for your courage to speak up, your courage to call a spade, the courage of conviction to be unbiased while reporting, to not be intimidated, to not to drop a point, not to dilute a point, to basically give a true and fair view if it is true and fair. And if the accounts do not show a true and fair view, you should be courageous enough to give a modified opinion, which could be a qualification, a disclaimer, or it could be an adverse opinion. And I think that's what is all. It is ethics, plus that's where your quality will stand out. And finally, the S stands for the fact that silence isn't always golden. So ideally, an auditor can also be a whistleblower through his audit report, or maybe through his management report, or maybe there's specific, if there are any frauds which are discovered, there is his duty to report to the central government for frauds exceeding a particular amount, to directly report to the Reserve Bank of India if there are frauds which is noticed, to specifically report in the CARO if there are any frauds which have been done by or against the company. So it's all about your courage of conviction, which is a key quality. And as I use another acronym, ethics is all about being a cheat And when I say achieve, it's all about being courageous, being certain, being confident, being clear in what you're doing. It's all about your hard work, your honesty, your humility. It's all about your energy. It's all about your enthusiasm. It's all about your empathy which you are having. It's all about your attitude. It's all about the fact that you got to be assertive to prove your point. It's all about your approachability, your adaptability. It's all about your attitude. And when I mean T, it's not just trust. It's your tenacity to hold on to your point, not to drop it. And it also means timeliness to issue your report on time. So that's what is the quality which is needed from an auditor to basically be qualitative. Ethics is the cornerstone of everything what we do. So compliance with the law in letter as well as spirit. So the AQMM talks a lot about compliance with your standards of auditing, with your accounting standards, with your SQC1. So it derives a lot from SQC1. If you have thoroughly been on SQC1, then you are straight at, if you see the AQMM model and the scoring pattern, you will straight be at level 2. So SQC1 is the bedrock, the fundamental of the scoring model of AQMM. So it's all about benchmarking. It's all about your perception also. It's all about the assurance and the control function of the best practices, the improvements you are actually making to the client, as well as improvements you are making in yourself. And it's again quality not just of your information which you have at your disposal, it is how you use the information at your disposal to actually transform that information to knowledge and to wisdom, to move from hindsight to foresight to insight, basically to enrich, to enlighten, to basically validate, to basically give feedbacks, basically from transformation to transcendence. So it's all about varied concepts at a very qualitative level, and at a quantitative level, we have a score. So the objective of the AQMM framework is, one is to raise awareness of the key elements of audit quality. So this is what we are doing in this session. Raise awareness, one, what quality is as a background, and then start as what AQMM is as a structure. You encourage all the stakeholders to find ways in which you can enhance the audit quality, and audit quality can just be enhanced by the auditor. And if you're talking of auditor in a firm, it's not the main partner, it's all partners combined, it's all the professionals combined, it's all the articles who are doing the work combined, it's all your support staff combined, it's all the vendors who are basically doing your support work. It's all about the clients whom you service. It's all about your cooperation which you get from the clients. It's all about you, how you convince the client that what you are doing is right, not just for his interest, but in the interest of the society and the planet. So it's all about encouraging key stakeholders, raise awareness about quality, and see how all of us can work together in tandem to improve audit quality. And it's all about having more dialogues, more discussions, more conversations on audit quality so that we achieve our purpose. It's a step in the right direction. I believe the ICI has clearly told all branches that you should have at least 2 functions a year on AQMM, which is right, because this is where you first raise awareness, and once that awareness is raised, then you actually work or maybe create a workshop on how you can actually go from level 2 to level 3. Or if you are at level 3, how do you go to level 4? Within level 4, how do you raise your marks? Or how do you sustain yourself at that level 4 despite all changes, all upheavals which are taking place? So the key is the dialogue on AQ, which has to keep on happening at all times. Now the roadmap. As I strongly opine and say, that once you know what this AQMM is, what the marking is, please rate yourself. Please then benchmark yourself to what levels you want. I would ideally say each of us should have the initial target of being at level 3. And if you're not at level 3, then what you should do to go to level 3, if you are, I think you should never be at level 0. I don't think anyone will be at level 1, which is the starting level. I think all of us, majority could be at level 2. And if we want to move to level 3, which a lot of us could be at level 3, then how do we go to level 4, which is the evolved level? And if we are at 2, how do we go to 3? If we are at 3, how do we stay at 3? And if we are at 3 overall, but because of some reasons, because in 1A we have less marks and are moved down to level 2, then how do we sustain at level 3 by getting those marks at those parameters where we are moving to level 2? So we'll all see how the structure and the marking is. So once you have done that, then find ways, find initiatives, find timelines so that you could basically move up the ladder. The resources needed, the execution methodology which you should do, who would be responsible, who would be accountable, the timelines which should be set for that. If you need support, you need resources. From where will the resources come from? The branches could play a key part. The study circles could play a key part. Your peers could play a key part. The faculties whom you have called for this could be contacted. They could be of help. They could guide you. I'm willing to indulge in conversations with anybody, anytime on this. So you assess your progress, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly. You revalidate this against this AQMM. You also have the digital competency maturity model. See how digitally competent you are. You can do half-yearly reviews again. You perform a peer review if necessary. You perform a mock peer review from any of your peer reviewer friend informally. And finally, you could also have an external assessment validation done. Earlier, it was voluntarily. Now it's mandatory to be done from 1/4/23. So then external assessment validation is there. But since it's happening as early within just 100 days or so, are we really prepared and have we done a self-validation ourselves? So high time we get moving and not wait for the last day and start jumping at it as early as we can. So audit quality is all about compliance with law, compliance with the extant regulations, the prevailing regulations as of date, which constantly keep on changing from time to time. It's all about standards of auditing and all the applicable accounting standards, your SQC work. And a real problem in standards of auditing is that we all know standards of auditing. None of us would not know what standards of auditing is. At the same time, most of us don't know what standards of auditing are as per the letter of law, which is written word to word. So how many of us very truthfully have read the standards of auditing word by word? And I would say I would have been speaking on this subject for at least last 5 years. I would be speaking on this at least for over 50 times. I have cut many videos for the Institute on each of the standards of auditing. I've been a member of the ASB, and as recent as yesterday, I spoke for 2 hours again on standards of auditing. I may be speaking again in this week. And yesterday when I worked on the presentation, which was maybe more than the 50th presentation I would have given, I still spent 2.5 hours in the morning from 7 to 9:30 refining my presentation. So the more you read, the more you go in between the lines, the more you discover what is to be done. And the standards of auditing have been so comprehensively drafted, they've not left anything. And when they drafted it, it was basically meant to be a guidance to all members on how they should go about doing the audit quality. And now when there is a guidance, it's unfortunate that at certain times, whatever we have stated, and that's what we have stated, and that's logically stated and rightly stated, is basically also picked up by your NFRA or by your SFIO to actually find mistakes in the audit methodology which you are doing. So they're saying this is what is written in the essay. Please show me how you have adhered or complied with the essay. And our key issue is that we do not have a structured way of documenting things what we have done. We have all done things, we have all done it right. We have all certified the account as true and fair. But when my essay tells us to do a particular thing in a particular manner, I really may not have it. At times, the peer reviewers have found cases where the engagement letter is not on record. The peer reviewers have found cases where the management representation letter has not been obtained, which is a clear violation of SA 580. And still we have not said that we have not complied with the SA or the essays have been complied with. External confirmations have not been sent. We've not done some documentation which is mandated by various standards. We have not formally documented a risk assessment as warranted as per SA 315, where we need to document what are the inherent risks and what are the control risks very specifically. So there are very specific mandates as per the essays which we are supposed to do, which we are not doing. And that's definitely qualitative violations, because this is what we have written, and we've not written it yesterday. It's written way back since 2019. And there's more than 13 years that these essays have been drafted, but still there have been glaring instances of basically non-adherences. And again, the peer reviewer is also being taken to task if there are any issues. So at times peer reviewers were maybe a bit lenient, but now they have also been very strict in recent times, given the situation in which the lens of scrutiny in which auditors are in. So it's high time that we get our act together and basically be in compliance in letter as well as in spirit. So one is measuring our adherence to the firm's quality control policies and procedures, which is mandated as per SQC1, nothing new again. So do we have a quality control policy? Again, if we don't have, we need to immediately make one. There would be many firms which would be having a quality control policy, which they would be more than willing to share it with us. We have all our implementation guides of SQC1, which show what the quality policy is about. It's not just cut pasting, and that's the root cause of all evils, because we just cut paste something which is situationally appropriate and suitable for somebody. And if we just cut paste it and put it to our use, it might be utopian, it might give a lot of aspirational value, but we may actually not be complying with it, and it would be more risky that we'll have a lot of things which we ourselves are stating that we are doing or we ought to do, but we are not doing it. So do something which is as per your requirement. Don't blindly cut paste, even if you are taking guidance either from the implementation guide or from other professionals. So have a QC policy in place. Then it's all about ethics. It's all about your team behavior, your ability to raise concerns, which is said without fear or any reprisal. It's all about not being intimidated, having the courage of conviction. So competency, credibility, integrity, transparency, objectivity, confidentiality, and professional behavior are all key principles of code of ethics which you should follow. And it's all about appropriateness of auditing, stating that the balance sheet, the P&L, and the cash flows give a true and fair view, and they are free from material misstatements. Again, materiality, SA 320. What is materiality? Materiality at the time of planning the audit, materiality at the time in course of audit, and materiality at the time of conclusion of the audit. And if the materiality at the time of planning of the audit is the same amount as during the stage of audit and at the end of the audit, you even need to document why it is so. So this is a specific requirement. So even if you may have documented materiality at the start, if that materiality has not been changed, why it has not been changed, just maybe a few lines of that you have applied your mind, and obviously you have applied your mind, but it's all about documenting certain things and putting it on record. Because a lot of people say is कि ये document करने से what actually happens, क्या होता है, हमने तो किया है. But I'm firmly of an opinion, and I stand by it, that the moment you put something on paper, the moment you think you have put your sign and seal to it, then you obviously become more serious and structured. And if there is anything which you have missed out, maybe your mind would conjure that up, and you would actually be more diligent and take more due care, which is what is expected of an auditor. The right blend of professional skepticism, the right amount of professional judgment. It's the right balance between a Pomeranian and a Rottweiler, as I would say. So maybe this is not a watchdog, he's not a bloodhound, but he is definitely an Alsatian, or he's definitely a Doberman, which is needed in current times, given the frauds which are also happening with frequent regularity in various companies. So appropriate reporting based on the circumstances. So what has the peer reviewer found, which has also led to this quality maturity model being put in place? One is audit documentation not being proper, and in high percentage of accounts which have been verified. And when I mean accounts, I mean by the number of firms. And though some of them would have been kind enough to pass this as suggestions, technically this is non-compliance with the SA. And again, peer reviewers have still not been strict enough to report everything which is a non-violation. So if you would be really very, very strict as far as a peer review is concerned, you would find much more cases in much more number of audit documentation not being there as per the SAs. The practice or the quality manual which is needed as per SQC 1 is not on record, or if it is on record, it is not maintained or not followed up in spirit, or it is just a cut paste of something from the implemented or something from some other forms which has been done. Management representation letters have not been taken. Now, again, there would be cases where MRLs may not be given very typically in a bank branch audit. But if it is not given, then basically qualify the accounts for the fact that SA580 has not been complied, or the fact that you have not got all information and explanations which were necessary for the purposes of audit. And SA580 also says that if MRL is not taken, then in cases where there are estimates which have been used, then how have you relied on those estimates? So have you done some other in-depth audit checking, or how is the substantive testing that you have done? So that also has to be documented. So again, an MRL not being taken will lead to a lot more repercussions if it's not there and you have not qualified. So MRL is something which is a must. It needs to be obtained, and it needs to be obtained before the audit is signed. In a lot of cases, you have something where the auditee says that they will sign it during or at the time of the audit, and somehow they refuse to sign, and because of the pressure to sign on time, you have signed the accounts, but the MRL is not forthcoming, and then maybe you are not reappointed, or something wrong goes between you and the management because of the fact that maybe you would have qualified certain accounts and the MRL is not being sent by them, then will be in trouble. So stick to your timeline, stick to your requirements, stick to your sign-offs on the documentation checklist, sign off the checklist of SA compliance before you sign off the account. So do a review of quality. Let the quality review partner review the accounts for adherence with the SAs and the AS before you actually sign off the accounts. And this is something which has to be mandatory, not negotiable. It's something where you move, as I said at the start, from knowing to doing to actually being. So that's the change one needs to really invite. Written communications with those charged with governance, not put on record on writing. There may be various discussions on key audit issues, key audit matters, scam as you may call in, significant areas which need audit judgments on which your final conclusion has been arrived at. And this has not been documented, again, very clearly mandated as per SA 260 and 265, complete violations of those standards of auditing. And even if your accounts give a true and fair view, you would still be non-compliant with your essays. And essays also say what is meant by non-compliance. So any non-adherence to the prevailing laws and regulations of the land is not compliant. So what are the laws and regulations? SA 450 talks of laws and regulations. So what exactly are the laws and regulations which are applicable? Have we considered all laws and regulations which are applicable, or have we just relied on what the management says, some 4 or 5 laws, or have we just gone very clearly with just some basic laws we know as the income tax law, the GST law, your Companies Act? So are these 2-3 basic material acts is what we've considered, or is it that there are various acts which we have basically not considered at all? So that's something we need to check. That SASQC 1, which is not being followed, is something we need to see and something we need to clearly follow up. So now the AQMM, which is developed by the CAQ, it describes the inputs and the outputs that are applicable, that contribute to audit quality, as I said, not just at the engagement level, the firm level, but also at the national level. The AQMM is applicable to firms in the first phase. So that it's not that it's applicable to everybody. It's applicable only to a certain set of firms. And earlier, even to those firms, it was voluntarily. It is mandatory for those firms from 1/4/23. And which are those firms? We'll see that. But very broadly, these are firms which are doing audit of listed companies. These are firms which are doing audits of banks, of insurance companies, which excludes cooperative banks and regional rural banks. And it also applies to companies over a particular stage. And maybe as and when the peer review is being increased from 2024 onwards, 25 onwards, 26, I believe the AQMM requirements will also be synced in with the requirements of firms which need peer review. So this is the initial stage from 1/4/23. From the next year onwards, I believe it would be extended to more firms. And I believe it's just a matter of time when your audit quality maturity model score would be looked upon and asked by certain auditees, and they would be allocating audits, or their board would be saying that unless the firm is in level 3 or level 4, we will not assign them audits of a particular complexity or a particular listed entity, or in cases where there is public money involved, where they are trustees of public funds. So it is something which will only grow in importance from time to time, and something which we need to take very seriously and ensure that we implement it. So the audit quality indicators, 3 indicators are there, 3 parameters as we should call it. One is practice management, which is basically operational. Then there is practice management, which is strategic. And the third is the HR piece. So 3 parameters are one which are there. So we'll see on this more. And to whom are they applicable? So one is to all listed entities, they would be applicable irrespective of their size of turnover. They would be applicable to all banks, including multi-state banks, excluding other cooperative banks and bank branches at this stage. Insurance companies, whoever is doing the audits of insurance companies, he will have to have his rating done. Initially, it was recommendatory. The council was to review the date of mandatory application. It has reviewed and made it mandatory from 1/4/23 onwards. And this has not to be publicized or mentioned on the public domain, letterheads, visiting cards, signboards, websites, as it would tantamount to solicitation. So it's only on a pull effect. It's not a push effect, which is that you advertise that I am a level 4 AQMM firm. It's not something to brag about. It's something which you should have as a matter of fact. It's something which is a multivitamin, a good to have and a must to have for you both. It's both a multivitamin and a painkiller at the same time. So that's what EQMM is in short. 600 marks questions, 88 in number, in 17 evaluation criteria. Each criteria would have certain sets of questions, maybe 2, maybe 4, maybe 3, maybe 5, maybe 6, but 77 evaluation criteria, 88 questions in all, in 3 overall parameters. The first parameter is practice management, which is operations. At the operation part, which is basically the execution part, the delivery part, the service part, where there are 46.67% of the marks, 280 marks, and there is 48.86% question. There are 43 questions, 280 marks in practice management. Operations. HRM has 240 marks and 31 questions. Your practice management, strategic and functional has 80 marks and 14 questions. So they account for some 13.33% in marks and 15.91 in numbers. So there is a negative marking also in a couple of questions where the markings are 0 if you do not have a negative mark. But if there is a negative mark, that negative mark will pull your overall marking down. So EQMM, 3 parameters, practice management, operations, 280 marks. Practice management, strategic or functional, 80 marks. HR, 240 marks. Total 88 questions. Your practice management, strategic, functional has 80 marks, 14 questions. Your operations has 280 marks, 43 questions. Your HR has 31 questions, 240 marks. Practice management operations, 280 marks, 43 questions, 9 criteria. HRM, 240 marks, 5 criteria, 31 questions. Practice management strategy, 80 marks, 3 criteria, 14 questions. As I said, 9, 5, 3, 17 criteria in all. And what is a level 1 firm? So level 1 firm is one which scores less than 25% in each section. So one is it scores less than 70 in practice management ops, it scores less than 60 in HRM, and it scores less than 20 in strategy function. So overall, if it scores less than 25% in each of these criteria, though overall it would score more than 150 marks, based on it may score very high in practice management operations. Let's say it scores about 150 marks there, and it scores 50 marks in HR. So it's 200. And in practice mark, again, it scores 40 marks, 240 marks. So overall out of 80, it still has 240 marks, which is more than 30%. It is in level 2 ideally. But because of the fact that it has less than 25% marks in any criteria, it will be in level 1. Same way, overall, in level 2, you need to have more than 300 marks. But if in any of the criteria you have less than 140 or 120 or 40, then you would still be in level 2. And level 3, again, you need between 400 to 600 marks. So if you have between 400 to 600 marks, you would be in level 3 only if you have more than 50% marks in each of these. So more than 140, more than 120, and more than 40 in each of the 3 parameters to be in level 3. Otherwise, just because you are not having 50% marks in each, you would go to level 2. And level 3 is, level 4 is one where you have more than 75%. So level 1 less than 25, level 2 between 25 to 50, level 3 between 50 to 75, and level 4 which is over 75. So it's simple. You just got to rate the marks against each questions, find out what is the total number, the percentage, depending if it's 25, 50, 75, you would be in the respective levels. And within each parameter, you have to be in each level also. So very simple. So let's pause on this for about a minute, and maybe any questions I would take at this stage so that I actually cover it. So in the meantime, before I go to the actual questions, practice management ops has 9 criteria. As I said, 280 marks, 43 questions. So these 9 criteria, one is on practice area of the firm. It has 2 questions, 12 marks. Workflow, 2 questions, 16 marks. Quality review manuals or audit tools, 6 questions, 24 marks. Service delivery or effort monitoring, 4 questions, 36 marks. Quality control, 6 questions, 80 marks. Benchmarking of service delivery, 4 questions, 16 marks. Client sensitization, 2 questions, again 16 marks. Technology adoption, 14 questions, 64 marks. Revenue budgeting and pricing, 1 parameter with 3 questions, 16 marks. So overall, this will add up in the 9 parameters, 43 questions to 280 marks. Then HR, you have 5 criteria, 240 marks, 31 questions. So 1 parameter is on resource planning and monitoring as per firm policy, 6 questions, 28 marks. Employee training and development, 4 questions, 44 marks. See the importance given to training and development. It has 44 marks just on 4 questions. Your resource turnover and compensation management, there are 14 questions, 104 marks. So are you compensating your staff correctly? Is there a policy in place? Is attrition happening? If there's attrition, maybe you lose marks. So your ability to retain your talent is what will give you the marks. Then your qualification, employee skill set, use of an expert. If you're using them wherever needed, 3 questions, 32 marks. And firm's performance evaluation measures, you'll have 4 questions, 32 marks. Then you have practice management strategy functional, again 3 evaluation criteria, 14 questions, 80 marks. And this is on practice management where you have 3 questions on 20 marks. Infrastructure, physical and others, 5 questions of 48 marks. And practice credentials, you have 6 questions of 12 marks. So this is in short your 88 questions, 3 parameters, 17 evaluation criteria based on 953, 280, 240, 80. And we have each of these criteria 17. In each of these criteria, you would have certain questions, as we have seen, 3, 5, 6, 12, 14, whatever it could be. And they add overall to 88 questions of 600 marks. And this is where we need to score. Again, there could be some subjectivity in scoring, but please do not worry about that. If you are not completely there, but not 0 also, you may give some part markings and just try to find out where you are. So as I said, initially be strict on yourself so that the peer reviewer will not be even stricter than that. So that you really at your worst case scenario, if you are at level 2 or level 3, you can't be pulled down on that level. So unless there's a fundamental mistake which you have done, or maybe you also get it validated by some other professional, some other firm which has done it informally before you are formally vetted by a peer reviewer. So we have just spoken almost for 1 hour. Let's take a 1-minute break. Anything at that stage before we go to the actual questions for maybe the next 45 minutes. And then I keep the last 15 minutes for a Q&A session or any doubts or any issues which are there. So, Madam, you can take over at this time. Any questions or I'll just mute myself for a minute and maybe
Members, if you have any queries, please text in the chat box. Tomorrow also you are having VCM on audit board of ethics. You can join for that also. It's for 3 hours.
Any questions at this stage?
Sir, one question, is it applicable to all the CA firms?
No, so it's very clear. No? It's applicable to all firms which are doing audit of listed entities, which are doing audit of banks. So if you're doing an audit of a foreign bank or a multi-state cooperative bank or of insurance companies, it is applicable. Even if it is not listed. All listed companies, it is applicable. So as of date, from 1/4/23, this is where it is applicable. Then I believe, like peer review is applicable for firms of a certain stage. I believe peer review is also applicable based on your turnover or based on your capital. I believe those companies which are not listed, but which private companies having that capital or borrowings or revenue, I believe in the second stage, which would come up from 1/4/24 onwards, that would be applicable. So more or less over a period of time, I believe peer review requirements are also being enhanced to firms. So finally, I believe all firms with even 3 or 4 partners will finally, all proprietary firms will only be excluded, but all firms which are doing audits over a particular size, they would definitely be coming in based on your number of partners, based on your turnover, based on the turnover of the auditee, based on the borrowings or the share capital of that, based on the fact whether it's a listed company or not. So technically, this would be extended. As of date, applicable only to firms which are doing audit of listed entities and insurance companies and banks, excluding cooperative banks and regional rural banks and bank branches. But the fact that it is not applicable doesn't mean we should not do it. We should definitely do a self-evaluation criteria to find out what audit quality levels we are, because this is something where we should be aware of our own shortcomings. If we are not aware of our shortcomings, if we are not that qualitative, we can't be also competitive in the market. And we obviously, somewhere there would be some deficiency of service, which maybe the client may perceive, and maybe we may not be in a position to live up to his expectations or live up to the expectations of the regulator, or that's what the ICAI CAQ wants. It has not specified that this is the desirable audit quality level, but technically when we know we are in level 1, 2, 3, and 4, ideally we all know that we should be, without saying, either at level 3 or level 4. We definitely, none of us should want to be in level 1. Level 2 obviously should be for starters. Level 3 is at least the level which all of us should aspire to be. That's my take on it. It's not written. It's the unwritten rule of law. And again, I'm not saying in any capacity of any member of any of those committees or of any of those committees on guidance notes or any faculty as I'm in. It's my so I would just ask the question open to the audience. You have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Which level would you want to be in? Most of us would say we will want to be in level 4. But yes, you can't be in level 4 because it's not easy to be in that level. So obviously, I would like to be in level 3. None of us would want to be at the lowest level, right? Level 2, again, yes. Level 2, if not level 1, chalo, level 2 pe hai to start with. But level 2 to start with, I think this is what we should be at the start when we do a self-validation. We know we are in level 2, then how do we jump to level 3 when it's mandatory? So before it becomes mandatory, I think we should move up to level 3. But for that, we should do an internal validation to know which level we are in. I think the worst is we can't be in level 0 because there's no level. The starting level is level 1. So all of us would be at level 1 at worst. but we can't be at level 1. So if we are at level 1, how do we move up to level 2? So I believe there could be some proprietary firms which could be at level 1, because there are certain questions here which they would not be in a position to answer, or they would not be in a position to score. So let's see those questions now, and maybe let's see what it's tough. So that's where I say the next stage is it's the role which madam you would be playing will be very key in maybe getting people who, once you do a validation, find they are in level 1 because they don't have certain issues which are stated. Then how do we help them to get the issues there? So maybe we could arrange a series of workshops where we could make them design those policies or checklists or templates, or use those checklists and templates which are available as per some other firms which are there, or as per the implementation guides, or which are given by the institute, or which are available in various books which are there written by various authors. So how do we adapt them and make them suitable and appropriate for our use is what we need to do. So the next steps is basically, once you know, then you do, and then you adapt and evolve. So let's look at the questions. We've seen this. So the first question is, in practice management operations, is the practice area of the firm. So one is, this has 8 marks. And the question is very simple. Is your revenue from audit and assurance services more than 50% consistently over the past years? That will be considered as specialization. So ideally, if you are an audit firm, then you will get marks. If your majority of your revenue is from tax and you just get one audit which you are doing, then maybe your expertise, your strength is not in audit, it's on tax. Then you will just not get the marks. So ideally, this is something where some firm just can't do anything. It will actually have to be official as per its records over the last 3 years. So either it would be there or it would not be there. So technically, if it's something where you have your audit division also, and if you have your tax division also, and you have equal partners there, but if the tax division is scoring more in terms of revenue, you will not get marks here. Again, it's either here or there. So you either get 0 marks. You can't have, if you have 45% audit revenue, that you will get some marks. No, it's pure here or there. So this is a simple question, simple marking. Then whether you have a vision and a mission statement, 4 marks for this, 0 marks for it not being there. Now, many firms may have a vision statement. A few firms may not have a vision or a mission statement. Again, you can just check up the internet. You can just check up the vision and the mission statement of many firms. You could basically know what a mission and a vision statement should be. You look up what is your goal, what is your aspiration, what do you want to be known for, and then frame a vision and a mission statement accordingly. This is a no-brainer. Anybody can do it and get marks. The point is, it's a no-brainer to do it, but it is a much more tougher task to actually live by your vision, to stand by your vision, and to fulfill your mission. So it's not just based on the fact that it is there. The AQMM says it's also based on the presence and the implementation. So that's the key, the implementation. So first stage, if you don't have it, have it. Then whatever you put into your vision and mission statement, see how you could implement it. So based on that, you would get marks. So let's say you have a vision and a mission statement. Maybe you will not get 0, you will get 1 or 2. If you are implementing it, you may not be implementing it in totality. You may add a mark and maybe get 4. Or maybe people, if you're conservative, you could rate yourself as 3. But definitely, if you're completely glued on to the vision, you'll maybe get 4 out of 4. But I don't think anybody would be 4 on 4. If I was into it, I would rate myself at 2 or 3 based on how deep I am in my vision and mission and following it. Then audit manuals. Do I have audit manuals? Do I have a methodology to ensure that I comply with all essays and implementation thereof? Is it something that I sign them off before I sign up that audit? So availability of standard formats. So letters of engagement, representation letters, significant working papers which we are putting, the reports, implementation thereof. Now all of us will claim that we have it. but with what level of refinement, with what level of finesse do we have this? So 8 and 8, 16 marks are there. I believe none of us would be scoring 16 marks, but do we score 10 marks? Do we score 12 marks? Do we score 8 marks? Or what marks do we score? It depends on what we rate ourselves, what the peer reviewer perceives what we actually deserve. So one is we can start with, firstly, whether we have such manuals in place. If not, we need to have manuals in place. So this is where these manuals are clearly available with some evolved form. This would be available based on the WRC checklist, which our WRC gives. Maybe in SIRC, there would have been checklists which would be coming from their references, from our implementation guides, from basically on our essays, we can make our own manuals and checklists. So we can evolve, we can adapt to our requirements and make those manuals. The first thing is, if you don't have those manuals, make those manuals. If you don't have the standard formats, make those standard formats. And the next is implement those formats. So it's all about first having it, the design, and then the operating effectiveness, like any control. So as you are testing the test of controls, SA 330, testing of controls in an auditee, this is testing of audit controls in the auditor's firm itself. So this is where first is the manuals, the second is the formats, having them, implementing them. Now, whether we have a client engagement and an acceptance checklist. So the SQC requires us to have a client acceptance criteria. What are the risks involved in accepting a particular level of assignment? Is the client truthful? Is the client willing and would be ready to give us information on time? If we perceive this as a risk, based on our parameters of evaluation, we need not accept the assignment. But do we have a formal mechanism of evaluating this? A lot of us either are very clear, audits are risky, I don't have the capacity to handle them, I will not venture into audits. Let me be happy with the tax, certification, or other work which I am doing. Let me not do any assurance work. There are some who would be willing to accept any assignments, and maybe, let's see, we'll learn on the way. So the car is broken, they have decided to drive it. They'll say whatever happens, we'll maybe repair it on the way and move. I don't think it would happen now with this way. We need to have a clear-cut evaluation criteria and an acceptance checklist. So we have this, then are we evaluating this and are we documenting this? This is what we need to do. We'll get 4 marks. Again, not very difficult, but we need to do this. If somebody needs any help, maybe the branches, some of the professionals who have done this would be more than willing to guide or help people on this. Maybe if you have any questions on actual implementation over a period of time, you can just get in touch with me. My number is available with the organizers. They can share it. I would be more than willing to give my 2 bits on how do you go about it. Then evaluation of independence on all engagement. This is one of the key of code of ethics, which requires us to evaluate whether we are truly independent, and independent not just of the partners, it's also of the managers, it's also of the trainees. And there are independence checklists which the institute has given in its code of ethics. So are we actually making use of it? Are we actually evaluating all these identifications of self-interest, familiarity, intimidation, self-review, advocacy, and conflicts of interest? There are these 5 challenges in the code of ethics which have been specifically laid down. So against all of these 5 criteria, against all our partners, managers, and trainees who would be involved in this audit and involved in the audit judgment, whether they are independent and whether we have evaluated it. If we have done it, we get 4 marks. If we have not done it at all, we get 0 marks. If we have done it, but not with that granularity, then maybe 2 or 3 marks, or 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. Ideally, we should not get 0 and we may not get 4. So between 1, 2, 3, it's a choice. Where do we get it? So does the firm maintain and use engagement, withdrawal, rejection policy template? So if you want to reject any audit, or during the course of the audit, you find there are some contentious issues which the management is not ready to give the explanations, or the management is very headstrong on not allowing you to modify the report, or maybe not accepting anything. And if you want to resign, then whether you have a rejection policy in place and whether you are following the right protocol and informing why you actually resign, rather than saying that maybe for lack of time or something, because that is also now seriously viewed by the MCA. You just can't resign because you have lack of time. That should have been identified during the client acceptance checklist itself. It should have been documented there. You should not have accepted the assignment if you know that you don't have the resources or you don't have the necessary timeline. So you could be hauled up more for accepting an assignment rather than rejecting. So the rejecting should have very clear-cut policies laid down, and the rejection should also be above board. So this can actually be a double-edged sword. So need to be very careful on this. At the same time, if there are issues where you feel rejection is the right thing, and if you are completely above board, then maybe go ahead, but follow the necessary protocol, follow the templates, follow your rejection policy, etc. And that's one of the requirements which your AQM also requires you to do. Then do you have standard checklists in performing an audit? The checklist on standards of auditing and checklist of accounting standards. Yes, 4 marks. Again, these checklists are available on the net, available on the ICI website, available on various references, available various firms would be doing it. If we not, we can just note down the essays and make our own checklist. Will not take more than a day to make it for 2 or 3 people if we divide the work. But it's not just on having a checklist. Is it that during the course of the audit, we are actually filling up the checklist? And then once that checklist is filled up, do we have a system where a quality review partner will review that, and then only the final signing partner will sign off only if this is in order? So more than after the checklist, are there standard formats for audit documentation? And audit documentation is not just SA 320 or SA 705 or SA 580. It's all the principles which are there in SA 230, and then all other issues like sampling, which is SA 530, your materiality, which is 320, your data analysis, your evaluation of controls of SA 315, your fraud, SA 240, your auditor's response to assess risk, which is 330, whether you have actually done your evaluation as a going concern of related parties, SA 550, SA 570 on going concern, all of these, whether you have standard checklists and formats for documenting as per the requirements of the essay. So there again, you have 4 marks. And whether these documents are frequently reviewed and updated during course of audit, it's not that they are done at the start or they are done at the end. This is to be reviewed and updated at every regular interval. It could be maybe end of day to be very spot on, or maybe every week. But since your audit doesn't, at the end of the audit, there's very little time to do the audit, especially if you're doing a bank audit, you have to sign off before 30th of June. So the least you could do is update it once every week. So one is the checklist, one is the formats, and the review and frequency of it. So this is purely based on your essays and SQC. So in your operations and execution, if you see, your requirements as per SQC and essays play a very big part. So these are areas where you can easily score. And let's say you can easily get 2 marks or 3 marks on this. So at certain areas, it's not difficult for you to get 2 marks. In certain areas, you would get 3 marks for it. So it's not difficult for you to move up to level 3 if you have done some homework. If you have done some homework at the start of follow-up of even applying this based on your adoption of SQC1 and essays or AS, as I've said, you would be in level 2. And if you refine it, you will easily be in level 3. Level 4, yes, you may find it a bit of a challenge initially for small firms or mid-sized firms. But I think nothing is impossible. I think with our collaboration, cooperation, we can all go up to level 4 also. So level 1, I sincerely, seriously believe none of us would be there. Level 2 is what many of us would be. we can easily go to level 3. We just need to do some work. Now, capacity planning for each engagement. Do we have a process where we plan capacities for each engagement and it is documented based on, let's say, planning as per SA 200 and 300, based on SA 315, the risk assessment, based on that, what is the time we'll need, who are the resources we'll need, what is the quality of resources we'll need, what is the time we'll need, what are the man hours we'll need to spend, what is the level of audit methodology we'll use in terms of inquiry, in terms of inspection, in terms of observations, how many external balance confirmation we'll done, how many site visits we'll do, how much of physical verification of inventories or of your stocks will do. All of that will need to be planned, and that planning will have to be done. So are we really doing it in that level of depth and granularity? Yes, we need to do it. We'll get 4 marks. If you don't do it, 0 marks. If you're just doing it in a very crude manner, maybe a mark. If you're just doing it right, maybe 2. But yes, we can all reach to level 3 in this stage also. Level 2, level 3 is what should be your goal for each of these marks. Then, do you have the process of budgeting and planning of efforts required and maintenance of man hours, man days, man weeks? So first is the planning at a very macro level, and then the granular breakup into man hours, man days, man weeks, and then the question of monitoring, which is the next level. There are 20 marks for it. So there is a budget of man hours, man days, man weeks. And that budget is used to find out your costing for this assignment. So you actually cost this. And then based on the fact that your budget and your time analysis, if there are final deviations in this, then based on the deviations, then you get marks. So if your actuals tally with your budgets by over 90%, so the deviation is only less than 10%, then you get the full 20. If the deviation is much more, then ideally you lose marks based on 16, 12, 8, 4 or so. Or maybe if the deviation is more than 90%, you don't get any marks. So here is one needs to be truthful in actually maintaining it, and one needs to be truthful in actually documenting it, and then finally rating it once the assignment is over. And do you have technology, timesheets, task management tools to actually track down each activity which is there? So are you using technology to monitor these timings? So this is what your VCM version 2 states. 8 marks on this. So one needs to invest here and have the requisite tool, the time management tools, or take the audit softwares which are available, or maybe use techies to help you develop these tools. So this is somewhere where at certain points of time, yes, you may need to invest, or maybe firms could pull in their resources, or branches could help them have tools developed which could help in this regards. So this could also be so technology again has a lot of marking. So one of the undercurrent which is coming on from the AQMM is the encouragement which is giving to members to upgrade to technology. And this is something which was clearly thought over, that with technology coming up, with use of smartphones and all other smart apps which are there, we as chartered accountants need to also be equipped with technology and use technology to basically carry out the audit. And I clearly remember we were also asked when we are stat auditors of some evolved clients, is what technology do you use when you are auditing us? So especially when you are evaluating derivative, what exactly is the software you are using to arrive at the mark-to-market model? So one is usage of technology is key, and this is where in this scenario, your AQMM tells us to basically do things at the level of that advancement of technology. So you have your digital competency maturity model. You can basically Google it. It's 4 levels of C1, C2, C3, and C4. It's one is C1 is for audit, and it talks about automation level of audit processes and nature of audit services which are rendered. One, at the client's end, the access with which we as auditors have to that tools, the training which we are having or which we are given, or our ability to handle digital evidence, and whether we can do an audit of IT general controls, IT audits, whether which we are equipped, whether we have necessary DSAs or CSAs or necessary software guys who can help us conduct the audit to the effective and efficient use which is needed. So this is where the DCMM, the usage of DCMM is also factored into the AQMM. Now your quality control for engagement, to see the variety of topics, see the diversity with which and the depth and the comprehensiveness in which the AQMM has been framed. So what is the process of partner or quality review, the documentation of the time spent for each of the engagement review activities. So one is you need to document how much time the partner has spent in quality review. And ideally, it's not that you name a quality review partner. The point is, what the hell has he done? And where is the documentation to show he is reviewed? So you need to have meetings in place. You need to have his conclusions. You need to have his findings. So either they have to be documented by way of a mail in a folder or somewhere. And that's how you need to evidence. If a peer reviewer asks this question, okay, show me who's the engagement partner, who's the review partner, what has the review partner done, how many hours has he spent on the quality review. And this is where, if there is a quality review, you will get the marks. The max marks here are 8, depending on how do you allocate yourself. So you place yourself in the shoes of a peer reviewer. You really be truthful and honest with yourself. And then you give your marks based on how qualitative your quality review partner is actually functioning. And this is, so technically, I don't believe that any proprietor would basically be handling or being in the area where you can be required to do an AQMM. But let's assume a proprietor is also an auditor of a listed entity. And it's not that the quality review has to be done by a partner in this case. It can be done by any professional, or he can even hire an external resource to do a quality review on his behalf. So it's not an unwritten rule that a quality review partner should actually be a partner in a firm. Because if it's a proprietor, there can't be a partner who could do it. So you can either use a third party professional, basically a pure contractual agreement, or you could even have your senior staff with the necessary competency, capability, and the maturity to do a review. Now, engagements which are concluded satisfactorily. So this is again, you have benchmarks on quality review. So if the quality reviewer finds issues in the way the engagement is done, and it's not that something that here again it has 20 marks. And this is, don't think that if the quality review just says there's nothing, everything is done qualitatively. There has to be a granularity in which the quality reviewer will also do his review. He'll check each and every adherence to the essay and he'll find that out. So if the quality reviewer finds engagements which are not conducted satisfactorily, then depending on how many engagements are not conducted satisfactorily, if more than 10% of the engagements are not done satisfactorily, then you may, less than 10%, you will get the full 20 marks. If it's between 10 and 30% of the engagements, then you will lose marks. You will get 16, 12, 8, 4, or maybe if it's more than 90%, then maybe. So if there is one engagement only which you have, and in this engagement you have issues, then you may not get any marks. So if you have 3 engagements and 2 engagements are with no issues, 1 engagement is with an issue, so you have more than 30% of this which are issues, because 33.33% of engagements have issues. Then between 30 and 50, So you'll get only 12 marks. So this is how the marking will be done, depending on the number of assignments which qualify for that and the number of assignments which the quality reviewer has found quality issues in basically each of the earlier steps which are there on checklist, adherence, or whatever it is. So one is have a model, follow the model. The quality reviewer should just validate it. Obviously, there should be a methodology of validation, because if the quality reviewer just doesn't find issues and if the quality reviewer is basically not doing a quality review, then you may not ideally get marks even for the first point of 8 marks. And again, on the 20 marks, the peer reviewer, if very strict, could not give you any marks at all. So be very mindful when you do such ratings, that this is done not just with the letter of the law, it also has to follow the spirit of the law. Now, how many engagements are there without findings by the ICI committees, regulators, and if there are issues, then similar gradations, you lose marks. So if there are only 3 audits, and in 3 audits, in 1 audit, the ICI has found issues, there has been a disciplinary action raised, you would lose marks for that. And if you have all the documentation as per SQC1, there are 6 elements in SQC1. Each of these 6 elements are drafted, you will get marks. So 12 marks for documentation as per SQC1. So please understand the relevance of SQC1. If you want to start, just start and do SQC1 documentation thoroughly. You get 12 marks on your kitty. 2% of the marks are there for grabs. Then your standards of auditing and EAS checklist, then your engagement checklist, templates, all of that. If you just have it, you have marks for the kitty, your vision and mission statement. Some of these are low-hanging fruits. If you are not scoring on them, get them implemented immediately. Assign timelines within which you should do it. Maybe a week. Maybe in Jan, I should have this ready. I should currently, let's say I have out of 600, I have just 100 marks. But within 1 month, I can get this done. I'll get 60 marks. So immediately I get 160, I move up to level 2. Then maybe by March, I will get this done. I'll add another 160 marks. I'll get to 320. I'll move up to level 3. This is where I need to move, maybe from a level 1, immediately the low-hanging fruits within the next month to level 2 if I'm there. Then from level 2, again by end of March, I'm at level 3. So I have validated myself at level 3. Then maybe in April, I get an external validator to do it, and in an unstructured manner, some of my friend or colleague, and then I find myself, yes, okay, he's still getting me down to level 2. This is what I need to refine. Again, refine it. So maybe if my peer reviewer is done somewhere in June or so, I'm fully confident that I would be in level 3. What come may, there will be no way in which the peer reviewer will rate me down. And even if the peer reviewer has rated me down, then I can obviously work on it, basically satisfy him of the fact that this is done, maybe get a re-rating. Maybe I really don't know, there could be a cost to it, but yes, I could still get my ratings done satisfactorily. So this is all where I need to know, where are the marks given, how are the marks given, what I should do to get the marks, where am I, where should I go, and when and how quickly should I go. So the time starts now. Your clock has started. You need not wait for the new year to do it. Now that you are aware, you can maybe quickly take a time off and quickly do a very rough test to know what you have, because you would all know what you would have and what you would not have. And maybe you could just rate yourself. And if you are finding yourself in level 1, then maybe you need to act immediately to get up to level 2. You need to immediately then move in the next 2 months to get yourself up to level 3. And that's where your actionable lies now, from knowing to doing to finally being at the desired level at which you need. So do you have accounting and auditing resources? Like, do you have a soft copy of the archives? Do you have a question and answer? The firm thought leadership, if there is an issue, whom you would go to? Do you have a dedicated shared technical desk? So somebody has a WhatsApp group, somebody has a mail group, you post questions, you will be answered, or you have a peer review system where if you have any issues, you ask them, you'll get the answer, you'll have it on record. So if you have all of this support, again, not very difficult to build up a support at a branch level, at a study circle level, a formal support system, and score marks here. And again, how much time have you spent on understanding the business, the risk assessment, the engagement planning, mitigation of risk through performance of audit procedures? This is all what your essays say that you should do. So this is not just having a checklist for essay. This is actually implementing the essay. So the business risk assessment, essay 315. Engagement planning, you have essay 300. Mitigation of risk through performance of audit procedures, you have essay 330 and essay 240. So if you are complying with this, you get 12 marks full. Now you may not get 12 marks full, but it is not difficult to get about 8, 9 or 10 marks on this if you are having a thorough system of doing it. So one, yes, we all do it. We don't do it in a structured manner. If you're not doing it in a structured manner, there is no way you can convince the peer reviewer that I should get marks for this. So all the more critical that you need to document. So this has to be in cahoots with your essays and now your SQC1. So if you're looking at a combo package of HUMM with your code of ethics awareness lecture, with maybe your essays, with your SQC1, with your maybe one awareness aspect of the networking guidelines or the multidisciplinary form, you could have a 1 day or a half day, 3-4 sessions where it gives you all these, and then finally you have a panel discussion where all of those who have spoken can maybe share with you the entire linkages of all 4. So at various points of time, yesterday I spoke on the essays. I'm speaking on multidisciplinary firms at some point of time in later this week. And maybe networking is something where I really don't want to speak too much on too many subjects. So though I know it, I would stick to being emperor of maybe 1, 2 or 3. So be in some niche. So I think this is where you could just combine this and see for itself how you would get marks up in the EQM based on your handling effectively, your essays, your SQC1, your accounting standards, all the templates, all the standardized checklists, all the engagement acceptance letters, your rejection letters, basically the concept of a quality review partner, the engagement partner, the capacity planning, the budgeting versus the actuals, the divergence between these at various levels. So this is where we are at this stage in the engagement level. Now, benchmarking of service delivery. Do we have audit manuals? Do you have standard practice and tools which we were there earlier, but now are you actually adopting it? Do you have those tools? So one was having the tools. Here again, this is reinforcing the fact that these tools need to be implemented. You get 4 marks if so at certain points of time there, even if the marks are there for implementation, at certain points of time, even if there would be marks which would be given for maybe non-implementation, at this point of time, if there is no implementation here, you will lose marks. And maybe you'll again go back there, the peer reviewer go back there and check what marks is given. And if he finds that yes, there are marks given there for just having a tool but not implementing it, he may then reduce the marks there also. So one is you need to see the interlinkages between various questions and then also rate yourself. In how many cases the statutory audit has been reworked? So this is where if you have issued an audit report and you find out there is an error and you have reissued an audit report, then cases where there is no such reissuance, you don't get any marks. But if there is a reissuance, then you have negative marking based on the percentage. So if it's less than 5, 15 years. So if there is only one assignment you have and that one assignment is reworked, then you lose marks and you lose -4 marks straight away. So it's on that percentage. So the smaller the percentage, even if one comes in that and it goes into 75 or 8, so anything more than 50, so if it gets you -4. So if you have one assignment and one is coming, you lose. If you have 3 and one is coming, then maybe you come under 30 and 50, so you lose about 3 marks. So that's how you would lose marks, and this is how you would get the scoring. Now, if there are client disputes other than fees, if there are again client disputes, again due to quality of work or again due to any other issue, maybe you will again lose marks in the same manner. If you have adhered to the audit timelines, there are no backlogs, there are no delays, there is no work in progress other than whatever this is due to the client side, then you get full marks, it's 12 marks. But if there are delays, there is a review delay from your side, maybe you lose marks. Again, not difficult to score full marks here, but at the same time, this is something where this needs to be done with all honesty and truthfulness, because there could be a propensity to basically hide things so that we don't reduce our marks. But again, you need to manipulate a lot of things to basically, so one is the initial R planning which you did. Again, the actual work with checkings which you did and the sign-offs you did. You need to then backwork everything, which is absolute dishonesty. And I believe none of us should do this to just get a couple of marks. I think we need to see that we stick to the timelines, what we had planned in the capacity planning exercise, and the adherence of the budgets versus actuals. And then if there are backlogs or delays, and so be it. There could be it could have happened for one assignment. Maybe we again the same percentages will apply here. A number of audits with backlogs, and maybe we will lose the marks there. Some of the marks, but it's all scope for us to know what our gaps are and then improve. So client sensitization. Again, do we have awareness and knowledge dissemination meetings on formal updation of audit issues, on effectiveness of communication process with those types with governance, updations of changes in regulations impacting clients, follow up on previous audit issues and updates. So if you have frequent meetings where, let's say, there are changes in circulars or regulations, then you meet the client, you update him, you tell him what would be the impact on his account. So how are their operations or how is their compliance gearing up for this? So if there is such a formal structure, then you get marks for it. Is there an alert and reminder mechanism that you have for due dates, payments, and filings for clients? If you have that, you are disseminating that knowledge, adding that value to the client, you get marks for it. And are you monitoring your planned hours versus actual hours during audit engagements? Is there a focus on existence of an accounting mechanism? So where your actual man hours versus actual hours which are spent on a daily basis per resource which is employed, then you would get the marks. So client sensitization plus monitoring is where this. And then again, this is the year where there are 13 questions, 52 marks on purely technology. Again, you saw the usage of technology earlier, audit tools. Now technology adoption like internal communication chats, automated attendance and leave management system. If you have that, you have 4 marks. If you don't have, so it requires you to invest. And now these are not very expensive. Again, do you have an activity and timesheet management? You have 4 marks. Do you have a digital storage of records? You have marks. Do you have a digital library? Yes. So if a small firm may not be basically having that, you may collaborate with other firms and firms can combine to form a digital library. So firms can combine and have somebody do leave management or automated attendance so that it becomes more economical per firm. There would be various firms who would be having tie-ups with the institute for this. So basically, look up to these service providers, the technology service providers, and maybe make use of this. Client interactions. Do you have websites? Are these websites updated? So this is where you need to. So if you don't have a website, technically you don't get marks for it. So one is, yes, it forces you to have a website, but yes, if you are doing or you want to be at a level where you want to have audits of listed firms, then you need to have the necessary investment in upgrading your technology. Do you have a centralized server or a cloud system? Do you have video conferencing facilities? Do you use licensed software? Do you have email domains and email usage policies? Do you have antivirus and malware protection tools? Do you use them? Do you have data security measures? Do you have cyber security measures? All of these would get you marks. 4 marks for each point, absence of this. maybe 0, or depending on the level of granularity of this, you would get 1 or 2. And awareness and usage of this technology, 12 marks. So do you have audit tools, analytical tools, data visualization tools? Are you actually adopting this tool? So a lot of us have taken software. It's not very difficult to buy software as they're not very expensive, but are you really using them for your audit? Many firms have these, but not actively using it. So here you may not get the full marks. And then do you have the DCMM version 2 to arrive at digital maturity? So again, 4 points, each point you may rate for 3 marks. And depending on how you are doing or not doing it, you may get a plus or minus on this. Now your revenue budgeting and pricing. Is your client-wise revenue, if it is less than 40 from a single client, it's to be reduced to 15% over a period of time. So a single audit client should not give you more than 15% of the revenue. So you should have technically more than 7 audit clients. So if there is one client who's giving you maximum revenue, then ideally you will not get the desired marks. And fee considerations are not to be infringing on the scope of work and documentation. So it's more applicable to smaller clients. It's not that for a smaller client, you don't do the audit documentation, because as of date, there is no leniency given for SMEs on the essays. There's no dilution. Yes, materiality levels will differ. Public interest will differ, but a listed company is a listed company where public funds are involved. Just because somebody has 1,000 crores turnover, somebody has 100 crores, you would obviously spend more time there, but doesn't mean that you dilute some areas of a lesser turnover company. So no infringement on scope of work and documentation. If there is findings to that effect, you lose marks. Otherwise, if you're doing it, you get 8 marks. Adherence to minimum scale of fees as per ICI standards, yes, you get marks for it. If it's not there, then depending on the parameters faced, very easy to calculate, you will get those marks as are there. Now, your resource planning and monitoring. Do you have a process for employee resource planning based on his experience, skill set, requirements? So for each employee which you are utilizing for the audit, do you have a system where you have evaluated his experience, his skill set, the experience and the skill set needed for the assignment, where he would be fitted in, what he would be doing? So if you have a process, then you will get 4 marks. Do you have a spreadsheet workflow for actually allocating these resources? If you have, then you get further 4 marks. If you have a methodology for tracking employee activity to identify what is the resource productivity, like timesheets to assess productivity, you get another 4. So do you have a ratio analysis done of staff to partner ratio, partner to manager ratio, manager to articles ratio, client to staff ratio? Have you fixed what is the ideal ratio? What is the actual ratio? If you have all these ratios in place, you will get marks. And are you monitoring the actual realization rate, the actual utilization rate per employee? So it requires you to do an internal costing of your resources. Good. It's a highly evolved thought process. If one needs to do it to be more effective, know what cost we are spending, who's the employee who's actually adding value to us, are we actually compensating him based on his performance? We'll come to that because that's also another question later. So if you are doing this, we get 4 marks. And are we documenting what we are doing this per engagement and filing it for reference during further engagements, noting it? It serves as a ready-made reference for the next year's audit based on how much time we spend. So this is what we will do in the next year. This is where we will get the necessary marks. So do you have an employee training policy? Yes, 4 marks. Then is there professional development hours, the days spent? Yes. So there's also specific general training, specialized training, trainings for juniors, training for mid-level people, training for partners. So this is apart from all the CPRs which we have. This is the firm's internal training. Obviously, you can blend it with the training which is done, and for the CPRs also, you both can be blended. But you could have training for you. So if you are linking the 60 hours training with maybe the 30 hours of it, so 30 hours could be maybe the training which one takes the CPR, and 30 hours could be internal firm training where maybe any partner or any outside resource could be there to give training for the firm. So that's where you could have it. Do you have a management culture of a performance reward system that rewards high performing employees, those demonstrating high level of quality and work ethics? So this is what we are saying is, if your productivity rate of employee is being considered, then is he being compensated according to his productivity rate? So this is where you need to monitor, and this is where you need to give him basically the compensation. Based on that, you will also get the necessary marks. And are you equipping your employees with the necessary technology skill sets? So all the skill sets like AI, blockchain, your artificial intelligence tools, your business continuity, all those differentiating factors which are there. So all the future technological changes, the robotic process automations which are happening, all of these, if you are using it, you get 8 marks for it. Then your resource turnover or compensation. It's about how are you evaluating your team composition and strength for development. How many of them are assistants? How many are managers? How many are articles? How many are paid employees? So do you have something where you are projecting your growth plan, your growth in each of them, and how you're managing to tackle this? COVID has thrown a lot of these completely out of gear. So having various scenarios planned, and based on that, how are you actually tackling it, or how do you want to basically get just in time workers or your gig employees? So how is the planning to be done? If you have done that, evaluated it, you get marks. So the firm turnover ratio, what is the attrition? How many people have come in? How many people have left? What are the steps which are being taken for reducing the attrition? If you have a policy, if there is not significant level of attrition, you will get the desired mark. So again, marks for quality professionals retained by a firm, 20 marks for quality professionals retained. So again, this is also serving as an incentive or a mandate for smaller firms to expand, to have professionals improve the quality of their work, get better work. So it's all about basically investing in resources, investing in technology, and growing there. That is, maybe you could even collaborate and have quality professionals. Maybe they could be as a contractual or in your actual employment capacity, but this is something which have been there and have been doing your work regularly. So evaluation of employee relations within the firm. So what are the reasons for turnover? Is there an exit interview? Is that exit interview honestly done? Is it a free and frank interview? So what are the reasons for there? Because it said that employees don't leave organizations, they leave people. So what steps are being taken to reduce this turnover? So this is where one needs to check and one needs to evaluate, and then you get the necessary marks also on that. Statutory contribution benefits available like health insurance, other benefits, again, good for employees. The firm should be having it. Does there have a revolving door policy where there are partner interactions, there are town halls, as you call, the staff can freely walk into a senior's office and interact, you get marks. Is there an established framework and time commitment, engagement level review, overall performance review, differentiated reward performance system based on performance? You have 8 marks for this. So a lot of marks on quality, a lot of marks on performance, a lot of marks on incentivization, so that people are motivated to perform at higher levels because they would get higher engagement, higher revenue. So they will be the ones who will be also reducing the cost of your service for executing that assignment. Retention, the more employees you retain, yes, you may need to pay them an incremental cost, but the new resource will cost you even much more. And the cost in terms of poor quality will be even worse off. So good employees cost you more, but bad employees at times may you pay forever. So this is something you need to consider when you look into this. So again, access and use of technology infrastructure for employees. So you may have the technology, But are you giving this to your employees or everyone down the line who's executing, so as that this is making his life easier, so that you have marks? How that technology has percolated at the routine operating level at the last mile, as you say. Again, how are women colleagues handled? How are they coached? How are they mentored? Is there diversity of audit leaders in the profession? So again, encouragement to have more women partners, more women professionals, a step in the right direction, because they get the right balance and the right culture and the right insights in place. Is there a policy? Again, a good point there. Policy to provide rejuvenating time post busy audit periods. We know all branches have post 31st March or post 30th September or post 30th November. They have their outbound and so technically it will not be that the firm may have on its own. Yes, they could have on its own, but they could also link it with their study circle. They could link it with the branch, and they could even have most of the employees or partners or their key members joining in. Or maybe for other people, they would have other forms of rejuvenation. But this is something which is very positive. And are there policies for staff well-being, engagement, communication? So are you making the staff more aware on having good communication skills? So it's not just GMCS at the articles level, it's people, senior partners like us who never had access to GMCS. Are they basically having any skill updation on communication or mental toughness, on your soft skills, on your image management? So what exactly are the steps which are being taken to update and upgrade this? And is there a mechanism to listen to employee views, suggestions, any credible employee surveys being done to show that people are cared and being heard? Again, 8 marks. So your HR, 240 marks on that, complete on employee welfare. So even if, let's say, for example, you are not doing well in some year, you're just managing to get a minimum number of marks in execution, let's say, or somewhere in execution, you are getting great marks in HR, are employee centered. So basically the combination of execution and your HR, I really don't think from the questions which it is difficult for any firm to just at the start itself be at level 2. And if they are not there, there are enough low-hanging fruits to be at level 2 within 1 month. And whatever still they are not there by some marks here and there in level 3, over 50% marks, still 75% marks to be in level 3. It's not very difficult to score about 300 plus overall, and over 140, over 120, and over 40 in each of these criteria to be at level 3. So level 3 should be your minimum goal, which you should have ASAP. So again, your standards of recruiting people, do you have an assessment methodology? Do you have a quality evaluation? Do you have a fitment to job, a culture? You have a KRA done, you have a induction policy, you have a job evaluation. So all these scientific tools basically need to be there to basically, because your employees are the one who are the heart and soul who actually execute this. So need to have them happy and engaged and qualified and skilled. So defined compensation approach. Again, we come back to compensation where salary is marked to knowledge and experience level. Again, at one point of time, we have it initially marked to knowledge and experience level at the initial level. And then you have your bonuses or your perks, which are given to productivity, individual productivity, somebody who's slog the extra hours when it's needed. Not that you get things moving to the last minute or move to urgent from important, but somebody who's really stepped up when needed, maybe in an emergency situation, which could be stray or adverse. Somebody who's taken up the responsibility, who's taken the lead, who's taken the charge, who's surpassed expectations, say far exceed expectations. So they would deserve the necessary bonuses. So are we giving them? So this is all some 14 questions in all for 104 marks. Then how many professionally qualified members you have, depending on the number you have, you will get the points. If more than 50% of your members are professionally qualified of your total employees, you get marks. Again, it's a bit difficult, but yes, somewhere where it's not possible for a firm to do it, ideally they can try to score in some other marks, or maybe they would try to get at least some marks, try to be in that 30 to 50 criteria, so that they get at least 8 marks in this. And partners compliance with CP requirements, or maybe services of experts taken where qualified somebody partner with DISA, IP or similar qualifications, again you get 8 marks. Incentive for partners, incentive for your experts to be qualified and get all those credentials here. So yes, you get marks here. And members with specialized certificate like IFRS, INDAS and other accreditations, number of members having this, you will get marks as per this. So again, 3 questions, you get 32 marks. Then firm's performance evaluation measures. Are there written policies for performance evaluation of its firm and its partners? Is the method determined and specific? Is there a frequency for evaluation and is it applied consistently? And is there a system of a partner review based on the quality of work, and are these results made known and acted upon? So the 4 questions, 32 marks for this. Again, how much is the mix of experienced and new assurance partners? It's not that all partners are the senior partners. All others are employees who are not engaging or infusing new blood, new young partners in the business. Again, depending on your average partner experience, and you would be 8 marks. Is the firm complying with the ICI Code of Ethics, Companies Act, and other regulatory requirements on professional independence and conflicts of interest? Again, no brainer, you need to do it, but you need to demonstrate it. There should be no adverse qualifications. If you have, you will lose marks. Again, there's one more section where there's also a negative marking here if there is any disciplinary case going on. So this question may move in tandem and you'll score or not score here. Again, do you have a whistleblower policy? How is that policy implemented? Are there any issues raised? Are there being actions taken on the basis of complaints which have been received here? How is it that the employees feel free to voice their opinions or dissent without any fear of being terminated or being harassed or any threat to their life? I think this is where you will get the marks. So again, on branches, associates, network, firms, and a incentive to move toward this networking and affiliation route which the institute has advocated, you will get marks. Again, how many of your activities are centralized, decentralized if you have branches? So centralization of activities like accounting, invoicing, payroll processing, if there are branches. So marks for centralization, lesser marks for decentralization. Again, what is the security, the physical and the logical security of information which you are maintaining? How is it implemented across locations? So especially focus on security at smaller branch locations. So depending on these security measures, you'll again get marks. So how adequate are your disaster recovery and IT infrastructure? If you have such tools, then based on the relevancy of your assignment and how you are allocating it to that assignments, you will get the necessary marks. And adequacy of infrastructure in terms of internet, intranet, networking, bandwidth, VPN, Wi-Fi for remote working. If you have policies, if you are having this infrastructure available, you will get the marks. Again, 5 marks, 5 questions, 48 marks. So again, practice credentials, peer review certification, if you have it, 4 marks. If you are empaneled with the RBI and CAG, you get 8 marks. But if there are decisions by RBI and CAG not to empanel you, they have blacklisted you, you will get negative marking. So if you are debarred, blacklisted by government bodies and authorities, you will get -10 marks. If there is any negative marking in a quality review board assessment, you lose 10 marks. If you have cases of professional misconduct against any member or who is proved guilty, member is guilty, you will lose 5 marks. So you have negative marks here. You have 12 marks if you are empaneled and peer reviewed, you will get 4 marks. But there are again 4 questions where you might lose about 25 marks. So negative 25 marks are also there, which can quickly pull you down. And this is something where you need to be very worried, because if you are, this section has 80 marks, and out of 80, if you quickly lose 25 marks here, then you are straight down to 45 marks, less than 50. So if you are less than 50, so you will be at level 2, irrespective of the fact that you have scored highly in other year. And if you don't get any marks in other sections here and you are very low here, then this negative marks could pull up your level elsewhere. So need to be very careful, especially as far as level 3 is concerned, because level 3, there are lot many negative markings and they could quickly pull you down for other levels. So one, this is where we've come to the end of AQMM questions as they are. We're just on time, maybe a brief exceed. Any questions? I'll be willing to take. So I stop my screen share and maybe let's see how we could further take this ahead. Good to see more than 100 people here on last week. So any thoughts, any shares? I'll be more welcome to also learn from all of the participants, because all of them are chartered accountants and each chartered accountant has his experience, his part of the story, which is unique to him. So no one can take that experience from anybody. I think all of us are privileged and blessed to have worked in various cultures, in various regions, in various audits, in various assignments, where there could be a lots of issues. So I've been enriched and enlightened by feedbacks which are given by various participants. Yesterday itself, there were participants when I was speaking on the standards of auditing who came up with really practical problems which they had, and over course of years, I've constantly upgraded and upskilled based on the feedbacks and the validations on news shares which have been given by all participants. So I throw this floor open. Anyone has anything to share, I'm more than willing to listen and be enriched. Thank you. Thank you, I think the branch, for inviting me once again. I really don't know. I had spoken last time on essays, right?
Yes, sir. And bank audit also you had done, and even AQMM and other topics.
Okay, fine. Thank you. I think I'm more than a regular now in Vijayawada. I should come for a physical session sometime.
Definitely, sir. You have to visit Vijayawada branch physically also.
Sure. Thank you.
Plus, you can text your query in the chat box, or you can.
So one is I think I've shared you my presentation, right? If not, I'll just mail you my presentation, or I will WhatsApp you the presentation. You can share it.
Definitely, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks for inviting me, because the more and more I'm now speaking, at times I feel that I may not need a presentation also the next time.
Really, yes, so energetic from the beginning to end.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation and explanation. I hope everyone who attended here got some knowledge on AQMM with your presentation, sir. Also, we're thankful to you, sir, for coming by accepting our short-time invitation.
Oh, thank you.
Member, thank you all for attending today's session. I request all of you to attend tomorrow's session on Code of Ethics and Disciplinary Mechanism with practical case laws from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Fine. Thank you.
Thank you.